Welcome again, Maxim here, and this material is for players who don't know how to start their adventure with Steel Path, or are not very good at it, or simply don't like it due to the not strong enough builds on Warframe or weapon. I will show you mods that are useful in late game, weapons that every player, sooner or later, will have, which are very powerful, even without Rivens. And I will mention various methods of increasing survivability of your Warframes on missions. Since this material is about Steel Path missions, I assume that you have, or soon will have, access to the all-story missions and game modes. Be sure to also check the description under this video, because there will be a lot of links to other guides that I will be mentioning during this video. Let's start with mods. I will group them in different ways. First, by their source. If you are missing any basic mods for critical chance or damage, multi-shot, attack speed, or elemental mods for any weapon type, you need to revisit Void. As for the elements, the exception are regular toxic mods. You get them on Ares. I mentioned this in the video about farming Void mods, link in the description. In the Void you also get mods for basic statistics, health, shields and armor. These, while still useful at levels up to 150, later become less and less useful, because the opponents will be able to shoot you down with 2 shots. So the values of these statistics usually become meaningless. There are Warframes with quite unique properties, such as Nidus or Inaros, that can survive a little longer on such mods. However, don't do builds based only on health on them. Armor reduces the amount of damage you receive. Also some Warframe skills make good use of armor, such as Rhino's Iron Skin. In the Void, you can also find faction mods, which are one of the most interesting damage modifiers in the game. They don't add base damage to the weapon. It is a multiplier applied to the final damage value. In addition, it is counted twice in the dot damage calculations. The downside here is the need of changing this mod in the build for a specific faction. If you forget to change it before the mission, you'll deal less damage. If you are forgetful or don't like changing your build every mission, I can recommend the Hammershot mod. Not as effective as the faction mod, but it is a fairly good replacement. You can get it on Nightmare missions. More about it in a dedicated video, link in the description. From this mode you can also get Shred, a basic mod for example Ignis or Amprex. From a daily tribute you will receive its prime version. First chance for it on day 200. Other good Nightmare mods: Lethal Torrent, Multi-shot with fire rate for secondary weapons, Companion mod, Animal Instinct, Loot and enemy detection, so you don't have to use it on Warframes. And for Warframe you can use, for example, Viga. But remember that the basic statistics become less effective with higher levels of the opponents. However, from this group of mods, one for Warframe can be pretty useful: Fortitude. Shield recharge rate is an interesting stat, because it causes shield gating to activate for longer. Before the rework, this mechanic provided 1.3 or 0.33 seconds of invulnerability to enemy attacks, dependingly whether all or part of your shields have been destroyed. Now the protection time depends on the value your shields had just before it was destroyed. The more damaged the shield, the longer the protection. The minimum time is 0.33 seconds and the maximum is 2.5 seconds if you had 1150 shields or more. Back to the shield regeneration rate. Here's a list of mods that give this effect and where to get them. I will only add that the Guardian mod, fully upgraded, restores 100% of owner's shields when they are depleted, once every 30 seconds. There's also a mod that modifies the effect of shield gating, catalyzing shields. It is a corrupted mod from Deimos. Works similarly to how the Decaying Dragon Key worked before. It reduces your shields by 80% and shield gating will protect you for 1.3 seconds if the opponents destroy your shields after they were fully charged. If we are talking about protection mechanics, there is also Overguard. This special type of cover that is placed over health and shields protects against damage and status effects and gives half of a second of invulnerability to enemy attacks after it is destroyed. You can apply it on yourself with an arcane named secondary fortifier. Finish Jade Shadow's story quest. Then you will be able to play a new mission on Uranus, Ascension. There, from Defeated Sister of Parvos, you have a chance for this arcane. or you can buy it in Ordis shop, located in Drifter's camp, for a resource that you will acquire on this mission. But of course, there are also easier methods of creating Overguard. For instance with Rhino, Kullervo, Ember or Atlas, although the last two require a special mod for this. However, if you use mods dedicated to Overguard on Frost or Styanax, you will be able to apply Overguard on both yourself and your allies. And if you play Dante, you can create Overguard also for yourself and for your allies without any argument. But you can have your own mobile Overguard generator always in your pocket. Create a Spectre of a Dante, and he will be creating Overguard for you and for your team all the time. Corrupted mods are also very useful. Link to the guide how to get them is in the description. In fact, all of Warframe mods in this group are useful in some builds, depending on your approach to the game. For primary and secondary weapons, you will find mods that increase critical chance, but reduce fire rate. On some weapons, this mod is a good option, but not for all. Sometimes it is more profitable to use a regular crit chance mod, because lower rate of fire may reduce the final damage per second value a little bit too much. You can always do a quick test in Simulacrum to see which mod will be better. In this group, you will also find mods that increase overall damage while reducing accuracy or attack speed. These types of mods are good, but when fighting mobs at level 100 or higher, it is usually more profitable to use something else. For example, a specific element for a given faction, for instance corrosive on Greenear, magnetic on Corpus, heat on Infested. Except that faction or status mods, something for crits, multi-shot, fire rate or some ribbon. There's also a mod for melee weapons, Corrupt Charge, which increases the initial combo value, useful if you play with a heavy attack build. It is worth combining it with the Killing Blow mod. This one can be found, for example, in Void Containers. But both of these mods can be replaced with something stronger. I'll talk about it a little bit later in this video. Drift mods may also be useful. You will learn how to farm them from the video linked in the description. However, most of these mods do not provide huge benefits, just a slight boost to one of the statistics. The exception is Coaction Drift, which enhances all aura mods in the team, owner and team members. Coaction Drift does not work with the combat discipline and power donation. If you want to create a really good builds, you need to have some Galvanized mods. Once you have completed all Star Chart missions, you will have access to the Arbitration. There, you will get Vitus Essence, which you can exchange in the Arbitration shop for, among others, Galvanized mods. Almost every self-respecting endgame build should have at least one of these mods. In Arbiter's shop, you will also find the Rolling Guard mod, which gives you invulnerability to enemy attacks for 3 seconds after rolling. This combines perfectly with shield gating. And in the reward pool on Arbitration, you can drop Adaptation. This mod increases your resistance to the damage with which you are attacked, but it will work only if you don't die. If you get downed into attacks or shots, it won't be able to provide you any protection. As long as enemies aren't overwhelmingly powerful, you will find that it protects you quite well. There are also primed mods in the game. You can buy them for ducats from the Void Trader, Barketeer. However, he is available on the relay for 2 days every 2 weeks, and his offer is random. But there are some alternatives to that mods, and I don't mean their regular variants. After playing the new war, you will have access to the Veilbreaker story quest. After completing it, you will find a special shop where you can buy Archon Continuity and Flow. They have the stats values like prime variants. Archon Vitality, Stretch and Intensify also have the same stats as their strongest counterparts in the game, except Umbral mods. Plus, these mods have additional properties that work very well with certain Warframe skills, making specific builds even more powerful. And that's it when it comes to mods. Now a few ways to increase your combat effectiveness and survivability. Here, however, I will discuss things that will require some time to achieve. But once acquired or unlocked, they will be yours forever. Let's start with the easier stuff. Warframe selection. This is a very personal matter, depending on your preferences and approach to the game. Personally, I recommend Citrine, Chroma, Mirage, Volt, Baruch and Wisp. I saw the latter on the Steelpath mission with almost random mods, and she managed to survive there anyway. Remember, however, that crowd control skills are very useful there. If you play alone, the attention of all opponents will be focused on you. it's best to introduce some minor confusion. You can use Warframe skills or radiation status. Either electric or fire status are also good crowd control. If you don't have any of these things, you can use Specters. They will be running around you and distract the opponents, partially drawing mobs' attention to themselves. I recommend a Railjack crew member with a powerful weapon, such as Kuva or just your most deadly weapon. This is the only Spectre that uses your weapon with your build. The weapon will be as powerful as in your hands, or even more powerful if you hire a crewmate with maxed combat stat or you just upgrade the statistic to the max. Also, if you reach the command rank 10 in Railjack Intrinsics, you will be able to hire stronger crew members from Ticker. They have one special bonus stat. Some of them can have, for instance, plus 150% more critical chance. Except that, Spectre of Korra, Trinity, Citrine or Wisp will be also helpful. Using Healing Ancient and the Shielding Osprey at the same time is also a cool combination. All of these are a great addition to the solo missions, but imagine that each team member can throw a few Spectres. That's a lot of distraction. There are also Warframe skills that create mobs, for example, Shadows of the Dead from Necros. Distraction always works well, except when you are invisible. Then it's easy to get shot with a random bullet. However, if you don't have anything for crowd control in your Warframe, I recommend checking out what Helminth has to offer. You can exchange one of your skills to create chaos, soften mobs, or simply increase your damage. Link to the Helminth guide is in the description. But remember, the best crowd control is simply death. Killed mob will no longer cause you any problems. So be sure to use crits and statuses properly, and it's best to choose some method of stripping armor from your opponents. Links to the guides on crits and statuses, as well as armor reduction, are also in the description. Now something more difficult. Arcanes. Unfortunately, some of them take quite a long time to farm. Once obtained, they are yours, but some have low drop chance. And depending on the type, you need 10 or 21 of them to upgrade to the max level. Each subsequent arcane level increases the chance of its activation or the bonus value. But even before you increase the level to the maximum, they are already useful. Some of them are from missions, some from bosses, some from syndicates. A guide on how to farm them can be found in the description. You can use them to develop builds or compensate some stats, for example, lack of energy or low attack speed. Some of them add health, shields or armor, under certain conditions. An additional fire rate may also be a good option. When you create a build or you want to enhance existing one, check out list of all arcanes for a given piece of equipment. You can do that even if you are missing some in the Arcane Management Station or in the Codex. Arcanes for Warframes are only one group. Zos and Kit Guns have their own arcanes, primary and secondary weapons as well. Over time, as you play Steel Path missions, acolytes will come to you. From them, you can drop, for instance, arcane named Primary Merciless. Secondaries also have similar arcane. With each enemy you kill, up to 12, you will have 30% more damage. That is quite a large value. And you can add arcanes to your melee weapons thanks to Sanctum Anatomica, after the Whispers in the Walls story quest. The possibilities with arcanes are truly endless. Check the arcane section or in the Codex for a list of those available in the game. Some are difficult to farm, but as I said, once you have them, they are yours forever. There are also arcanes for the Operator, both for his amp and himself. While those for amps only increase or modify damage, those for the Operator can be used, among other things, for crowd control. Magus Lockdown stuns enemies within 15 meters after performing a Void Dash. Not for long, for seconds only, but sometimes only seconds decide whether you survive a given situation or not. There's also a Magus Anomaly, which pulls enemies within 30 meters to the point where you returned from the Operator to Warframe. It is very easy to gain melee combo counter on such group, or detonate them with some explosion weapon. Even just the ability to enter Void mode with the Operator gives you the opportunity to escape from troublesome situations. And Operator schools also provide some options for protection or survivability. This aspect is worth checking too. Guides on Operator schools and amps awaits in the description. Okay, but at the beginning of the video I mentioned weapons that you will get sooner or later, and some are very powerful. I meant the ones you will receive during or after specific story quests. Few of them are strong enough to be useful on the steel path. Broken War from the Second Dream, for instance. With this build, when you increase combo multiplier, this weapon is able to deal with really powerful enemies. If you don't want to lose your entire combo counter when you stop hitting, you can use the Naramon operator school. Now you can see this weapon used against enemies from the steel path, levels 200. Piece of cake. And you can also add some Warframe buffs, elemental ones, roar, eclipse, or skills that make mobs more susceptible to damage, or reduce their armor. Let's go back to the build. It is quite universal. If the weapon does not have any unique mechanics or unique statistics or their values. Otherwise, a different mod configuration could be even more deadly. You can also modify this build to suit your preferences. Top right mod, Berserker Fury. You can replace it with a regular or primed Fury, if you prefer a constant attack speed bonus. Another option is to put range, critical damage or armor reduction mod in this slot, if you want to reduce it on your opponents this way. Or, if you have a Riven mod, that would be a good alternative too. Remember that you can also increase attack speed with the Valkyr skill from Helmith. Or from Arcane on Warframe. As for weapon damage, I recommend Viral, Toxic, Toxic with an additional slash mod, or only slash with a faction mod. But Broken War isn't the only option. From the story missions, you also get Paracesis if you like heavy weapons. Prelude to War Quest, Chimera Prologue. Be sure to use some additional attack speed here. Nikana, Skiajati, The Sacrifice. Nikanas are very effective weapons, especially with this build. There's also Rumblejack. You get this dagger after the new war. It works very well with Shattering Impact. With this weapon, you can also equip Argonak with a mod to remove armor from enemies while attacking with a dagger, to strip them even faster. During the Deadlock Protocol quest, you will create a weapon called Xoris. This glaive class melee have the largest range of heavy attack detonation. You detonate by pressing the alternate fire button after throwing it. Best to do it above the opponent's heads. The explosion applies an electric status on enemies. With this build, you will have a very powerful area weapon. You can of course slightly change it, for example, by adding a second elemental mod or a Riven. Do it in place of the Gladiator mod. You can also exchange Sacrificial Pressure Point or Pressure Point for a faction mod. If you have and like Arbitration, you can buy for 20 Vitus Essence Galvanized Reflex, which is a great replacement for Corrupt Charge. There is one more nice mod for Glaive, and not only. You can place it instead of Killing Blow, Melee Elementalist. It amplifies status damage, among others, from Slash, Toxin and Electricity. Very good mod for Glaive Prime, Serata and of course Xoris. You can get it from Juno Sapper Moa. This unit can be found on mentioned before Ascension. Each killed mob has 0.43% chance to drop this mod, but there will be plenty of them. If you want to release the true potential of Xoris, you must add to your build Melee Influence. You can find this Arcane and Melee Arcane adapter in the offerings of Bird Free on Sanctum Anatomica. Arcane can also be dropped from Mocking Whisper. More on that in the dedicated video about Sanctum Anatomica, link in the description. Without it, Xoris may have some problems with killing more elite units sometimes. But just take a look, what happens when you equip it into your build. 2 throws with detonations, and pure silence. Before we go any further, there is one more Melee Arcane, also from Sanctum Anatomica. Melee Crescendo. With it, you gain 6 initial combo for a finisher kill. And Parazon Mercy kills are also counted as finishers. You do not lose this combo counter till the end of the mission, or you use a revive. On Xoris, this Arcane will not be better than Melee Influence. But on any other melee weapon, it's just great. After the new war, Nataruk will be also in your inventory. It is a bow, and before you say that you don't like bows, let me tell you that when properly used, it shoots explosive arrows that pierce through all enemies on their way. You don't even have to put a single forma into this weapon. All you need is this build. Test it on the same mobs, level 200, steel puff variants. If the status occurs, you destroy each of them with one shot, without any additional buffs. Hunter Munitions mod does a great job there. It works best on weapons with a high damage base. You can get it during events, Plague Star or Ghouls. If you want to even more damage, you can add one polarity and put a faction mod instead of hammer shot. Or even bladed rounds. Aiming with the bow is a common thing. And that's all in this video. If you have any questions, the comment section is yours. You can also come to visit me on one of my streams on Twitch. Link to the channel is in the description. See you next time. Bye.